Welcome back to Contemporary Black Voices. And today we have members of the MLK Commission sitting with us. Now, in our first segment, Curtis Smith, or Dr. Curtis Smith, was sitting with us. But because a certain person's name was being mentioned, Curtis gave up his seat and we brought on Mario Solis.
They're great.
And so I'm going to let Doshi talk about Mario's contribution to the commission and the events.
And he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I was sharing with the panel during the break that Mario was very instrumental in getting MLK Day recognized as a local holiday here in San Antonio. And that's significant because we were one of the first cities in the state of Texas to have MLK Day. And it was a lot of going to Austin and lobbying with the legislature. And I'm not sure what happened at the local level, but I'm sure it was similar to having it as a state holiday, the city holiday.
Yeah, well, and I'll only add to that we actually threatened to prevent the Super Bowl from being played in Houston if they didn't honor Dr. King for a state holiday. And we wound up meeting with the Speaker of the House at the time was Gib Lewis. He didn't want to do it. He's the one that kept moving the bill to the bottom of the stack. Anybody who knows anything about the state legislature, they meet for 140 days. After that, all the bills that haven't been heard during that 140-day period die. You got to start all over again in the next legislative session. So Gib Lewis was trying to do that, but he was appointed by the governor, and he didn't fool around with it, but he didn't want to tackle that thing anymore. So he wound up telling people on the calendars committee to move the bill forward. And I'll never forget that. Ann Richards, who was the governor at the time, called the next day and said, "How the hell did y'all get that to happen?" And I said, "Well, we threatened to take away their football land." And she said, "But what?" She couldn't believe what I was saying. Well, because we had met with the Players Association, and Gene Upshaw at that time was the president of the NFL Players Association. And he agreed that they weren't playing in Arizona because of that same problem. And if they weren't going to honor King as a state holiday, not a federal holiday, we already had a federal holiday, but a state holiday, that's a different thing. If they weren't going to do that, then the NFL wouldn't play in Houston. And of course, that got Sheila Jackson Lee involved in it. She was saying, "We can't take away our Super Bowl." And that was a good thing she said it that way, because that lent credit to what we were trying to do.
Is there going to be a featured speaker this year for MLK?
Yeah, so we have Gabby Douglas, the three-time Olympian, well, I'll say all-around Olympian. They don't say in the world of sports or Olympics, when you compete in a category and you win first place in all of the, I'm going to say a sport, track, in this instance is gymnastics, and you win first place in every category, you are considered an all-around Olympian. So she won first place as an all-around gymnast, and she will be here. First time in U.S. history that happened in 2012, where we had a U.S. Olympian win all around in their category. In gymnastics, particularly years prior, Dominique Dawes had won first in several categories, but not every category.
Please tell our audience how the march progresses and at what point do they get a chance to see or be able to hear the featured speaker.
Gabby Douglas. Yeah, so we gather at MLK Academy early in the morning.
Okay.
So it says 7:30.
Okay.
And I want to remind people that your marshals already be there. They'll know the march positions and locations. But we want to encourage marchers to park at St. Philip's because that parking is still available. But the Spurs are playing on MLK Day at, is it AT&T Center?
Yes.
Frost
And-
Bank Center.
Frost Bank Center.
Frost Bank Center. Oh, please forgive me. That's one of our sponsors. I'm sorry, Frost Bank. So they're playing at the Frost Bank Center. So the Freeman Coliseum parking is not available. So they can park at Alamo Dome Lot C in lieu of the Freeman Coliseum, 1000 Montana, Alamo Dome Lot C.
Is there a cost to park there?
It is no cost. That's
Okay.
VIA is one of our sponsors, and they give monetarily, but they do all of our park and ride services the morning of and the afternoon. So you park at Alamo Dome, Lot C, or St. Philip's, and be shuttled to the start of the march. The shuttle will drop you off. VIA will drop you off at Hine Road and MLK, and communicate with your march marshals so they can tell you where to stop at. The pre-march worship service starts at 8 a.m. and that is at MLK Academy. And so while we're getting lined up, there are performances, there's entertainment, there's artists, it's things to do there.
Let me ask you, is there a place that people can go to find out about all the events that happen in the day or the timeline that they can look at?
There, we do have a calendar of events that I'll share with you all before I leave. And you can always go to sa.gov.
Yeah, I want our
/MLK.
audience to be able to know.
sa.gov /MLK is the MLK Commission's website.
So let me ask this, with the fundraising, you told me about the fundraisers not fundraisers that you have, but the sponsors that you have. With those sponsors and the money that is raised, I don't know who I should ask, but what happens with that money? What do you use that money for, and how long does it last?
I can start off by saying that the money that we raise is used to fund the events and also a lot of the bills that we create, because we've invited a lot of, I would say, heavy hitters, our person that's going to be the speaker, our entertainer. And so what we do is we use that money for those reasons. We have a lot of in-kind sponsors that have given us things that you suggested or stated. The VIA, who's providing the writing from the Alamo Dome and from St. Philip's to the beginning of the march. But most of it's to fund the expenses that it takes to put on a march of this magnitude.
And scholarships. So we get an allocation from the city of San Antonio, and $100K of that allocation goes directly to the area foundation for scholarships. The remainder is put in our general operating budget, and we have to raise the rest of the budget. So like Angela was saying, it does go to operating funds. Also, certain sponsors want to sponsor certain events. So Shields Legacy wanted to sponsor the Youth Zone.
I got another question real quick. One thing is, there was a previous commissioner, and not commissioner, but what do you call it, chairperson?
Yeah, so that's the commission chair is also referred to as the commissioner.
Okay.
So you're correct.
Okay, so at one point, there was a commissioner that had their own, well, we later determined, I guess, that they had their own kind of fundraising that was set aside on the side. Are you familiar with what I'm
I am
talking about?
familiar with so his history. When the commission was formed, it was the city was our fiscal agent.
Dr. Doshi, tell you what, let's stick a pin in that for right now, and we'll pick it up when we come
Okay,
back.
absolutely, because I really want to clear this up.
Okay, good.
Let the community know.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, we'll be right back.
And